My guest this week on Dan Really Likes Wine, probably as little as 5 or 6 years ago, would have been a name largely unfamiliar to many of you. Then he came up with the coolest wine label in the industry, added an even cooler name, found some fame and fortune through this wine around the world, and now I've had to go through 9 different agents just to get him onto the show because he's become that big a name. Sakkie Mouton, welcome to the show.
Hi, Dan. Good to see you.
I have to tell you, I had a joyful moment a couple of weeks ago in London with a very good friend of mine, Dr. Guy Sannon, wanted to buy some wine, loves his South African wine, and we walked into a shop called Hedonism. Now, Hedonism, if you're South African, you can only shop in if you've recently had a vital organ removed and have sold it to Middle Eastern aristocracy. And in we went. And this is a place where you can quite happily buy a bottle of Romani Conti La Touche Monopole for £15,000. And it's full of the best first growths and the best Grand Crus and the best Super Tuscans and wine that per bottle is the GDP of Bolivia. And then in amongst all of this absolute lavish wine, I see a couple of bottles of the Revenge of the Crayfish, and I cannot tell you how happy it made me to see that wine there, and not as oh, that's an interesting oddity with a cool label. It was there because this is just exceptional wine.
Oh, that's amazing. I'm happy you found it there. Yeah, that's big. It's big for the West Coast. That's amazing to see. Yeah, to hear that there's wine there from an area that's probably in the last, let's say 20 years ago, no one would ever thought you could find it there. So that's amazing. Yeah.
I have to, as a disclaimer, I don't think there's any left because my friend Guy bought all of it, and wisely so at my encouragement. But it's interesting that you make that point because we're currently sitting not on the West Coast, but at Roundstone. Chris and Andrea Molyneux's home are very kindly hosting a whole lot of us through the course of today. And this is an area today where the West Coast can look on as what it might become, because 20 years ago, nobody really felt that the Swartland was a home of fine wine. And if I look at, again, the last 5 years or so, suddenly the West Coast is coming across my horizon so often because of really good, but also genuinely interesting wine.
Yeah. No. I think at this stage, for me, it's interesting to see how many people contact me and they want to know where can they buy grapes and where can they go and, where can they go and source something interesting. And there's so much interesting stuff up that side that I don't even know about all of it yet. So yeah, it's interesting. It's cool. It's very, very cool to see people are seeking something different.
The Swartland needed champions, and it had a young Yebben Sadi, it had a young Arty Bard, it had the young Molyneux, young Kalilo. The West Coast has got a young Sakkie Mouton. And yes, you are driving your own wine business, certainly, but I know you're very passionate about that whole stretch, and you're passionate about it because just as the Swartland had something very special to offer that people maybe hadn't fully appreciated the potential of, I think the West Coast as well, and it's a different kind of special, but there is something there to be tapped into.
No, there's definitely something there. And I think for me at this stage, what I realized is to make it even more interesting is what I'm doing at the moment is planting new varietals as well. That I think, we've got a lot of chenin and we've got a lot of Shiraz and everything going around South Africa. I think to plant something new there, something interesting, will just push the West Coast even further when those vines come into production in the next 3 years. So yeah, I'm trying to push it as far as I can. I think that's what I'm trying to say. See how far we can go with it.
You're doing a terrific job, and the wine is ultimately what will change that. But to get people drinking the wine, you have to catch their attention.
Yeah.
And that brings us to this name and to these labels. And we've had conversations about this before, but it's worth reminding people who don't know the history of Sakkie Mouton and his very colourful approach to showcasing wine. Revenge of the Crayfish. It's coupled, if you haven't seen it, if you're listening to this at the moment, it's kind of 50s pop art sci-fi movie poster. It's loads and loads of fun, and it's really unexpected. How did this come about?
Well, Dan, I think when I was, a bit younger, when I started with this label, the idea was, it was a time when there was a lot of, let's say, I'm scared to use the word, but hipster labels going around. And I think for me, I've never wanted to make a hipster wine, but I mean, there is a younger crowd that's drinking wines nowadays. And I think you want something a bit more fun, but I still want to give you like a great wine. So the idea was to do a quirky label, but put a great wine in the bottle. And that's when, I'm from the West Coast, so crayfish diving was such a big thing in that region, still is, if we can find them. So yeah, and I just figured, well, what if the crayfish, if it eats my head? It's a weird idea that came about one Friday night, maybe from drinking too much wine too late, which I'm happy we did. And yeah, it was just it was at the right moment when I had the thought. And for me, in my mind, I was like, well, this is definitely something I need to pursue. Where I told other people, they were like, dude, you're crazy. You cannot do this. It's like a crayfish eating your head on a label. That's very strange. But I felt like it was the right thing to do. And obviously it strung a chord with people. And then I got the right artist. The guy who did this, he used to do all the art pieces in My Fair Lady, the sketches. I think he did some in Huisgenoot in the 70s. And I just found his style very much what I was looking for. And he hit it spot on. And yeah, I love Quentin Tarantino movies. So that's also, it's got that Quentin Tarantino edge.
It also feels like you might have unwittingly had dinner with Arty Bard and Austin and maybe slipped some of his own special mushrooms into the meal. And this was the hallucination that eventuated.
I'm not saying anything about that, but what I can tell you, Arty's always been a hero of mine, and I've always admired what he does. And I mean, in the Swartland, I think, and in South Africa, in the wine industry, he was one of the first people that did these weirder labels. So yeah, there was definitely, there's a little bit of Arty in there for sure. Yeah.
I think he'd be very happy to hear that, because I know he loves this wine, and I know he loves the presence of this wine, and also the story and the success. And there is, I think, for every winemaker of consequence, there is that breakthrough moment. It looks from the outside as though this was yours. Do you feel that way? Do you feel that it significantly moved who you were as a winemaker when this suddenly started getting the global attention that it did?
No, definitely. I mean, my bank account doesn't feel it, but but definitely for me as a human. I mean, from the first vintage, which was 2018, to this one, which is 2024, I've definitely, as a winemaker, I've gotten way more confidence, and I believe way more in myself. And even this vineyard, in my opinion, I just know much better how to farm it at this stage. So definitely, it pushed the West Coast, it pushed me. So I think it's all like a domino effect in confidence, and just, going better and bigger, and just making it better, that's, yeah.
And it gives you a calling card. You've just got back from America. There's a very faint touch of American accent to you at the moment, which I hope you're going to see. But you're now able to touch down in America, not just as Sakkie Mouton, South African winemaker, but as South African winemaker Sakkie Mouton, who makes Revenge of the Crayfish, amongst, and let us be clear on this, amongst a number of very good wines. And having that portfolio where when you arrive, you're not having to start from scratch, does make such a difference.
It definitely does. I mean, America is a difficult market.
Especially in the last few months.
Yeah, no, I mean, with the tariffs and everything, it's definitely, it's a difficult market, and it's crazy for me. You touch down in, let's say, London, and someone somewhere has maybe read about the wine, so they have an idea. But you touch down in America, and it's like, who are you? We have no idea. We mainly drink beer and cider and some Napa wines, but that's it. So it's crazy, but the thing is, like, again, coming back to confidence, I've got the confidence to open these wines there and be like, listen, this is the best that I can give you from the West Coast at this stage. And I'm confident enough to stand there with the wines and showcase them. So I think for me, that's the main point. And just the English, the accent, I've still got the IR and IEs. It's still there. But I've always been a bit different with the English in Vredendal. I've always had a bit of a better English speaking.
The joy that you get from making wine, from giving wine to people, is something that must never end. I think if it does, then you've reached the end of your time as a winemaker, and I can't see that ever happening with you. But when you get to a small town in Midwest America and you're opening a bottle of South African wine, as someone who has not ever had a Sakkie Mouton wine, that they've never had a South African wine, and you're now giving them something, and you watch this journey of discovery unfold before you. How magical is that for you?
No, it's amazing. And, you open a Google map because people want to know, that they've heard of Cape Town, a lot of them. Most of them maybe have never traveled there. So you open a Google Maps and you show them, well, I'm from, 300 kilometers north of Cape Town. And they kind of look at you, well, you are weird for being South African and you're in America with wine. We never thought this would be, you would be able to do that. But now you're also from an area that's really unknown to us. So yeah, no, it's quite a strange experience, but it's cool. It's very, very cool. And I think because I've got, at this stage, I love what I do. Like you said, I hope, well, I could see in people's eyes, hopefully, that the story that I told them, they believed it. And I think they took something home from that, even if it's just the fact that you always believe in yourself and just, never stop exploring and never stop pushing the boundaries, because that's always how I tell my story, because that's the true story of Sakkie Mouton and the West Coast.
There's a lot of uncertainty about South Africa's relationship with America at the moment for obvious reasons. And I think there are a lot of people in the wine world who go, "Ooh, if I'm in America, should I be looking to get out? And if I'm not in America, should I look to other places?" Because it doesn't seem somewhere from the outside that is massively pro-South Africa at the moment. What's your sense having just come back? Is it still a place where our wines have a welcome home? Is it somewhere we should still be focusing our energy and attention?
I think definitely. I think, it's such a big country that you have the possibility of pushing a lot of wine there, but you're going to have to be very smart about it, and you're going to have to choose the right states to represent your wine. I don't think you should, if you want to conquer the whole of America, it's impossible. I don't think that'll ever be possible, but definitely for me, it will be worthwhile always going back. And I think people perceived my wines, well, I don't know if they bought them, but the way they reacted to them was great. So I'm hoping that people would, they bought into the story and everything that we were telling. But it's difficult now with the tariff situation. Yeah, so much negativity coming from that side. I mean, I was with a lot of other South African winemakers, and you sit in the evenings, you sit there and you chat about what happened that day and how people perceived the tastings, and everyone had a different experience, but it was a bit negative in the end, I feel. But I think it's just where we are politically. The politics has got so much to do with wine, unfortunately, and it makes it difficult to be positive. But I'm still positive. I think there's a future. But we'll see what happens. I think the next 3 years is going to be interesting.
We watch from the outside, we see these trips you do, and it looks like loads of fun. Gee, you got a great life, Sakkie. You're off to America for 3 weeks on holiday, drinking some wine. It's certainly not like that. You're pounding the pavements, just showing wine. It's a lot of hard slog, but it does take you to another part of the world. Do you manage to find time to try some of the local wine, to get a sense of what's trending, to get an understanding of the American or the Swedish or the German wine market while you're traveling?
No, for sure. I mean, the importers normally take you out for dinner or whatever, and you drink a lot of the local wines or wines that they maybe import or distribute themselves. So now you definitely get to drink a lot of great wine. But America is so expensive. We just drank, it was beer, That's, for South Africans, it's all we
What
can
do you think
afford.
about winemakers and beer? You just, if I have a winemaker that comes around for braai, around for dinner, and they don't want a glass of wine, and I've poured and decanted my very best, and have you got a beer, please?
Well, I mean, I guess, it's like a lawyer, he's been doing like books all day. When he gets to your house, he doesn't maybe have a pen in his hand or something. I don't know. They always say you need to drink good beer to make good wine. So yeah, it's a saying.
Well, it clearly works. You're back now. You've had the chance to showcase a bit of your wine around the world, but you're now back home and in that West Coast area where you're not alone in making some really interesting and exciting wine. Who for you are some of those other local West Coast producers who we should be looking out for? Guys who are really pushing the boundaries and lifting the West Coast into a must-visit, must-sample wine region.
Well, there's Willie Brandt and Gavin. I think those were, I mean, Willie, as I call him, he is the OG of the West Coast. So he was the first guy in that area that did. Him and Gavin, they did something that was different and interesting. So definitely, I think Cape Rock wines, they are definitely, for me, one of the more interesting ones. And I made wine at Friars Cove at one stage, even though I don't drink Sauvignon Blanc, but I think, Friars Cove, location-wise, if you want to really experience the harshness of the West Coast, and see just what it looks like and drink a glass of wine, on a jetty, which you can't just do that anywhere in the world.
It is unique.
I think the uniqueness of Friars Cove, I think it's definitely also a spot to check out for sure.
I mean, it seems when you look at the map, I've got to drive 4 hours to get there. But there is a lot of reward if you do make that pilgrimage.
No, for sure. There's a lot of reward, and normally the weather there is a bit better than up Willand side. Winters there is warmer than here, so you can get better weather, I guess. Yeah.
So you've got some lovely weather. You've got a beautiful part of the world. You've got a wine business to run, and it takes up a lot of your time. But when you're not doing that, when life is kicking back in as much as it ever does on the West Coast, what is a day in the life of Sakkie like if it's not wine related?
Sure, Dan. Driving around a lot to see friends and having braais and drinking.
2 hours to your next door neighbor for a crayfish braai.
Well, I mean, on the farm, basically, when I'm there, I don't really, social life there is really quiet. I mean, most of my friends don't live there anymore. So I think spend time with my family. That's what I do when I'm off, when I'm there. But when I want to go somewhere and really see people, it's a 2.5 hour drive for sure. But I play a lot of guitar, so that's something that keeps me busy.
Now, I've heard about this, and not just the guitar, but apparently you are able to play the guitar while playing a harmonica and creating musical genius.
I won't call it musical genius. Work in progress. That's a work in progress. But it's something I really enjoy. It's a hobby I've had since school, and it's just been I've been getting more and more into it. So I really enjoy it.
How important is it to have that other creative outlet, that space where, what, I'm actually sick and tired of making Chenin Blanc today. I just want to play some Bob Dylan.
It's better play Bob Dylan and drink Chenin. That is when you're having it for sure.
I can imagine you and Jasper Vickens having a great night, because I think he's actually got Bob Dylan tattoos on him. He's that much in love.
Someone the other day said, listen, what is it with the guys that's going around the Swartland? All of them have vinyls of Bob Dylan and they listen to Bob Dylan. I said, I think it's, the Swartland's also got a lot of vast spaces. And I think Dylan, the music goes very well with driving through the Swartland and just enjoying the scenery. It just works.
As indeed does the wine that you're making, and you're a few vintages in. There's still a long way to go on this story, but do you feel you've broken the back of it, that the name is now established, that you are significantly down the road on which you have embarked?
I think so. I think definitely there's the breakthrough has happened. I think now it's all about just keeping the momentum. I think if I can keep the momentum, and especially in we just spoke about where the world is at the moment with wine, it's not the best time to I think be building a brand. It's not an easy time for sure, but for me, I think with the fact that I've got time, which makes it a little bit easier. So yes, I think definitely the breakthrough has happened. Now it's just keep the momentum, keep the ball rolling.
And possibly, in closing, coming up with another wild, crazy, mad, catchy label and a name to match. Is there something bubbling under the surface we should keep an eye out for?
So at the moment, there's not really. I'm trying to just better the wines I'm already making, but with the new vineyards that's been planted, in 2 years from now, there'll be 2 more wines that will hopefully have the same wacky labels. I'm always scared that the older I get, I might lose my touch with weird labels. So I have to keep that child side there, always there, the creative side.
I'm going to ask you in closing to commit to something. I want to come out to the West Coast, so I'll get my passports and set aside 3 weeks to make the journey up by ox carts on the dirt roads to get my way to the Mouton home of wine. But when we get there, I don't just want to drink some wine on camera, but can I get a musical performance from you?
You can get a musical performance. You can get some great wine. We'll braai you some fish. Everything. Yes. That's easy.
Absolutely phenomenal. Sakkie, thank you. I know you've got a 6-day trip to get home from here, but good luck with this. You don't really need the good luck because it's now, as my friend Guy I mentioned earlier has discovered, along with thousands of others, this really has become a South African cult wine. But I think it's almost going to go beyond cult quite soon because it's really gone mainstream with its enjoyment. And thankfully, I still have a bottle or two which I cherish and which I refuse on principle to share with anybody because it's just too nice. And I look forward to many more. So until we see each other on the West Coast, Sakkie, good luck with this. And thank you for joining us.
No, thank you so much. Thank you for having me. It's been amazing. Yeah, hopefully see you soon.
The man behind the Revenge of the Crayfish, amongst many others. Don't think that's his only triumph. There are so many and so many more to come. Our Daily Likes one this week, it's Sakkie Mouton.